Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode where we dive into the little things that can make a big difference in our lives. Today, we're talking about something simple but powerful: small daily habits.
Yeah, we often think that big changes require big actions, but in reality, it's the tiny, consistent habits that shape our lives the most.
Exactly, whether it's reading for 10 minutes a day, drinking more water, or just stretching in the morning, small habits can have a massive impact over time.
And the best part, they don't feel overwhelming. It's easier to commit to something small every day rather than trying to make a huge lifestyle change overnight. Right. It's like that famous quote, "We are what we repeatedly do." So the key is to make those daily actions work in our favor. And the best way to do that? Start with something so easy that you can't say no to it. Like, if you want to start working out, just do one push-up a day.
Yep, because once you start, it's much easier to keep going. That's how habits build momentum.
And here's the interesting part: once you've built momentum, your brain starts craving the habit. It becomes automatic, just like brushing your teeth.
That's true. And I think a big reason why people struggle with habits is that they aim too high at the beginning. Like, deciding to read for an hour every day when you haven't read in months.
Exactly. That's why starting small is so important. If you want to read more, start with just 1 page a day. It sounds almost too easy, but that's the point.
Yeah, because the hardest part is just getting started. Once you're already reading 1 page, chances are you'll naturally keep going.
And another thing, habit stacking. This is when you attach a new habit to something you already do. Like, if you drink coffee every morning, you could stack a new habit, like journaling or meditating, right after it.
Ooh, that's a great trick. It makes it easier to remember because it's linked to something already in your routine.
And speaking of making habits stick, tracking your progress is another game changer. There's something satisfying about crossing off a day on a habit tracker.
Oh yeah, I've tried that before, and seeing the streak grow made me more motivated to keep going. It's like a little reward for consistency.
Which brings us to another key factor: rewarding yourself. If you celebrate small wins, you reinforce the habit. Even something simple like saying, "Nice, I did it today," can make a difference.
Totally, and let's not forget about accountability. Telling someone about your habit or having a habit buddy makes you more likely to stick with it.
Yeah, because we don't want to let people down. Even just sharing your progress online or in a group can keep you on track.
And one last thing, don't beat yourself up if you miss a day. It happens to everyone. What matters is that you get back to it the next day instead of quitting altogether.
Right. The goal isn't to be perfect, but to be consistent. Because over time, those small efforts add up to big results.
And that's such an important mindset shift: consistency over perfection. I feel like a lot of people give up on habits because they think missing one day means they've failed.
Yeah, but missing a day doesn't mean you have to start over from zero. It's about the bigger picture. One skipped workout or one day of not writing isn't going to ruin everything. But if you let that one day turn into a week, that's when it becomes a problem.
So true. And I think that's why making habits flexible is important, too. Like, let's say your goal is to exercise every morning, but one day you wake up late. Instead of skipping it completely, maybe you just do a 5-minute stretch. It's not your full workout, but it keeps the habit alive.
That's a great strategy. It's all about keeping the identity of being someone who works out, reads, writes, whatever the habit is. Even small actions reinforce that identity.
Exactly. Speaking of identity, I read somewhere that the best way to stick to a habit is to make it part of who you are. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to exercise more," say, "I'm the kind of person who takes care of my body." That small mindset shift makes a big difference.
Oh, 100%. When you see yourself as a healthy person, then making healthy choices becomes natural. It's not about forcing yourself to do something, it just becomes what you do.
Yeah, it's like when people say, "I'm not a morning person," or "I'm bad at remembering names." If you keep repeating that, you're reinforcing the identity. But if you shift it, like, "I'm learning to wake up earlier," or "I'm getting better at remembering names," it changes everything.
That's so true. The way we talk about ourselves shapes our behavior more than we realize. And I think another key to habits is making them fun. If something feels like a chore, we naturally resist it.
Oh yeah, I've definitely quit habits just because they felt boring. That's why I think it helps to mix things up. If you want to work out, Don't force yourself to do the same routine every day. Try different activities until you find something you actually enjoy.
And make it social if you can. Running with a friend, joining a book club, or even just sharing progress online makes habits feel less like a solo struggle.
Yes, having a community around your habit can be so motivating. It's why group fitness classes work so well. Everyone is in it together, and that energy makes you want to keep going.
Exactly. And this reminds me of something else: making your environment support your habits. If you want to eat healthier, put fruits and veggies at eye level. If you want to read more, leave a book on your pillow so you see it before bed.
That's a genius trick. I've started leaving my journal on my desk, and just seeing it reminds me to write. It's like little nudges from your environment that make the habit easier.
Yes, and the reverse works too. If you want to break a bad habit, make it harder to do. Like, if you're trying to cut down on social media, delete the app from your home screen or set up a time limit.
Ooh, I love that. Make good habits easy and bad habits inconvenient. That's a game changer.
And the best part is, once a habit is truly built, it doesn't even feel like effort anymore. It just becomes part of your routine, part of your identity, part of you.
Yes, and I think that's the ultimate goal with habits, not just to force ourselves to do something, but to get to a point where it feels natural. Like, brushing your teeth doesn't feel like a chore, right? It's just something you do.
Exactly. No one has to remind you to brush your teeth because it's ingrained. Imagine if all our good habits felt like that. No mental struggle, no motivation needed, just part of who we are.
That's why I love habit stacking. Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, where you attach a new habit to one you already do.
Yes, like, if you want to start meditating, you could do it right after brushing your teeth. Or if you want to drink more water, have a glass before your morning coffee. Pairing a new habit with an existing one makes it way easier to remember.
That's smart. I've been trying something similar with stretching. Every time I watch TV, I stretch for a few minutes. Now, it feels weird to sit and watch something without stretching.
That's a perfect example. When you attach a habit to something enjoyable, it doesn't feel like work. It just becomes part of the experience.
And speaking of making things enjoyable, I think rewards play a huge role in sticking with habits.
Oh, absolutely. Our brains are wired to seek rewards. If there's no immediate benefit, it's hard to stay motivated.
Yeah, like exercising. The long-term benefit is better health, but that feels distant. So if you give yourself a short-term reward like listening to a favorite podcast while running, it makes the habit more appealing.
That's a great point. It's also why tracking progress works so well. Just checking off a habit on a calendar or seeing streaks build up can be rewarding in itself.
Oh, totally. I once skipped a habit tracker for drinking enough water, and I didn't want to break my streak. It's such a simple trick, but it really works.
Yeah, because once you see progress, you don't want to lose it. But also, if you do break the streak, it's important not to beat yourself up. Just get back on track the next day.
Right. That whole never miss twice rule is a game changer. Missing one day is normal, but missing 2 in a row makes it easier to slide into old habits.
So true. And I think that's where self-compassion comes in. Being too hard on yourself actually makes it harder to stay consistent.
Exactly. Instead of saying, I failed, reframe it as, I had a setback, but I'm still making progress.
Yes, and that's why habits should be flexible, not rigid. Life happens, schedules change. If a habit only works in perfect conditions, it won't last.
That's a great point. The goal isn't perfection, it's sustainability. If a habit isn't working, adjust it. Maybe waking up at 8 a.m. to work out isn't realistic, but an evening workout fits better.
Exactly. It's all about making habits fit your life, not the other way around. When something feels natural, you're way more likely to stick with it long term.
And when you do that, habits stop feeling like effort. They just become part of who you are.
That's the key, isn't it? When something becomes part of your identity, it's no longer a struggle. You don't have to convince yourself to do it. It's just what you do.
Right. Like, if you see yourself as a reader, you don't have to force yourself to read. If you see yourself as someone who exercises, skipping a workout feels weird.
That reminds me of James Clear's idea in Atomic Habits: Identity-Based Habits. Instead of saying, I'm trying to eat healthy, you say, I am a healthy eater. It's a small shift, but it changes how you approach habits.
Yeah, it makes it feel more permanent. Instead of relying on motivation, You're reinforcing who you are.
And that's powerful because motivation fades, but identity sticks.
That's why it's so important to build habits that align with the kind of person you want to be, not just what you think you should do.
Exactly. If a habit feels forced, it won't last. But if it connects to your values, it becomes second nature.
Like, if you love nature, framing exercise as getting outside and exploring might work better than I have to go to the gym.
Yes, same with creativity. If someone wants to write more, instead of thinking, I should write every day, they could see themselves as a storyteller, capturing ideas whenever they come.
That's such a good point. And I think that's where fun plays a role too. If a habit feels like a chore, it's hard to stick with. But if it's enjoyable, you actually look forward to it.
Oh, absolutely. That's why gamifying habits works so well. Turning something into a challenge or giving yourself small rewards can make it more engaging.
I tried that with reading. I set a goal to read 30 books in a year, and it actually made me excited to pick up a book instead of scrolling my phone.
Love that. I did something similar with workouts. I gave myself a sticker for every workout, and seeing them add up made me want to keep going.
It's funny how small things like that make a difference. We think we need big motivation, but often it's the little tricks that keep us going.
Yep, and another big thing, community. When you surround yourself with people who share your habits, it's way easier to stay consistent.
100%. If your friends are into fitness, you're more likely to work out. If your friends love learning, you will naturally pick up new skills.
It's like that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. So if you want to build a habit, being around people who already have it can make a huge difference.
And if you don't have that in your real life, online communities help too. Even just following people who inspire, you can reinforce the habit.
That's so true. Social media can be a distraction, but if you curate it intentionally, it can actually help you stay on track.
Yep, and at the end of the day, habits aren't just about what we do, they shape who we become. So if we build them intentionally, they can help us grow into the best versions of ourselves.
That's such a good way to put it. It's not just about checking of tasks, it's about shaping your future self.
Exactly, and the cool thing is, once a habit is truly part of you, it doesn't take willpower anymore. Like, brushing your teeth doesn't feel like a task, you just do it.
Right, and I think that's where people struggle. In the beginning, building a habit takes effort, and if it doesn't feel automatic right away, they assume it's not working.
That's why I love the 2-minute rule. If something feels too hard, start with a tiny version of it. Instead of saying, I have to work out for an hour, say, I'll do 1 push-up.
I've tried that, and it's crazy how often I'll end up doing more. It's like, once I start, I figure, well, I'm already here and might as well keep going.
Exactly, the hardest part is just starting. Once you remove the mental barrier, the habit follows.
And the opposite is true too. If you want to break a bad habit, make it harder to do. Like, if you're trying to spend less time on social media, delete the app from your home screen.
Oh, totally. I did that with late night snacking. I stopped keeping junk food in the house, and suddenly, I didn't even think about it.
That's such a good trick. If something is inconvenient, we're less likely to do it. It works both ways. Make good habits easier, make bad habits harder.
And the key is consistency. It's not about being perfect, it's about showing up. Even if you miss a day, the important thing is getting back on track.
I read somewhere that missing once is fine, but missing twice starts a new habit, the habit of skipping.
Oof, that hits. But it's true. That's why I always remind myself, never miss twice. If I skip a workout or a study session, I make sure I do it the next day.
That's a solid rule, and I think tracking habits helps with that too. Just having a visual reminder can keep you accountable.
Yep, there's something satisfying about seeing progress. Even a simple checklist or a streak tracker makes a difference.
And the best part, once a habit is strong enough, you don't need the tracker anymore, it just becomes who you are.
Exactly, that's the goal. Not just doing a habit, but being the kind of person who does it naturally.
That's such a game changer when a habit stops feeling like an obligation and just becomes part of who you are.
Right, and I think that's why people who focus only on motivation struggle. Motivation comes and goes, but identity sticks.
So true. If you keep relying on motivation, you'll have good days and bad days, and on the bad days, you won't show up. But if you think of yourself as someone who works out or someone who reads every day, you'll do it because that's just what you do.
Exactly. Like, if you identify as a reader, you don't have to force yourself to pick up a book, it's just part of your routine.
That makes me think about habits I still struggle with. Maybe it's because I haven't fully embraced them as part of my identity yet.
That's a good way to look at it. Instead of saying, I want to work out more, you say, I'm someone who prioritizes fitness. Instead of I should eat healthier, you say, I'm the kind of person who makes healthy choices.
It's a shift in mindset. Instead of forcing yourself to do something, you just act in alignment with the person you want to be.
And you know what helps? Surrounding yourself with people who already have the habits you want.
Oh, for sure. If your friends are into fitness, you will naturally be more active. If they love reading, you will probably pick up a book more often.
That's why community matters so much. It's easier to stay on track when the people around you support your goals.
It's funny how we don't even realize how much our environment shapes us. If you spend time with people who complain all the time, you start doing it too. But if you're around people who are always learning and growing, you naturally level up.
Yes, and that applies to everything: work, health, even mindset. The people you surround yourself with influence your habits more than you think.
That's why it's so important to be intentional about who you spend time with, not in a snobby way, but just being aware of who's pushing you forward versus holding you back.
And it doesn't mean cutting people off, but maybe spending more time with those who inspire you. Or even just following people online who motivate you in a positive way.
Yeah, social media is a big one. If your feed is full of negativity, that affects you. But if it's full of inspiring content, you're more likely to stay on track.
Exactly. And speaking of influence, another thing that helps with habits is setting up small rewards.
Oh yeah, totally. Like giving yourself a little treat when you finish a task.
Yes, our brains love rewards. Even something as simple as checking something off a to-do list gives us a dopamine boost.
That's why habit tracking works so well. Seeing progress, even in a small way, keeps you going.
And if you tie habits to something enjoyable, it's even better. Like only watching your favorite show while running on the treadmill.
Oh, I love that trick. I do that with podcasts. I save my favorite ones for when I go on walks.
Perfect example. It turns something you have to do into something you want to do.
And that's really the key, isn't it? Making habits so easy and enjoyable that you actually look forward to them.
Yep, that's when you know a habit has truly stuck, when you don't have to force it. You actually want to do it.
That's really the goal, building habits that feel natural instead of like a chore.
Exactly. And it all comes down to identity, environment, and making things enjoyable. Once you nail those, habits just fall into place.
This was such a great conversation. It really makes me want to be more intentional with my habits.
Same. And for anyone listening, think about one habit you've been struggling with. Maybe the key isn't forcing it, but shifting how you see yourself.
Yeah, try seeing yourself as the kind of person who does that habit instead of just someone trying to do it.
And remember, small steps add up. Even tiny changes can lead to big results over time.
That's it for today, but we'd love to hear from you. What's one habit you're working on right now? Let us know, and let's keep growing together.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.